with the fat of a Nile crocodile as part of the coronation. And it also breaks down as anointed one, which is what the word Christ means, anointed one. All these things interconnect in the end, as we'll see as we go along. Even biblical references to the devil have a reptilian serpent imagery about them. This is from Revelation. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent, called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. Over and over, this same recurring theme. This is a painting that Credo Mutwa did on the side of one of his huts, which is symbolically telling the story of some of the stories told in the ancient African history and legends. And where do I find this again but on the logo of Alfa Romeo? Extraordinary. And on the other side of Alfa Romeo, you have the red cross on the white background of the Knights Templar, the very elite secret society within the Illuminati bloodline network.
Now, as I get started this afternoon with the real presentation, I want to tell you, originally when I was invited to speak here, and some of you may have even remembered some of the old advertisements, I was going to talk about the subject of biotechnology and transhumanism. Biotech, of course, being one of the emerging fields of science, that transhumanists, which is also an emerging, relatively new field of philosophy, but it's not the lunatic fringe. Of course, some of the lunatic fringe are part of it, and I guess one could argue that even those who are among the academics in the universities are also lunatics. But there's a great deal of PhDs behind this movement today, and law schools and laws that are being formed, because these people imagine using now these emerging fields of science, biotechnology, nanotechnology, neuropharmacology, genetic engineering, artificial intelligence, mind uploading, mind downloading, RFID implant technology. They imagine using these fields of science in order to alter what it means to be a human. They really do view this as the next step in human evolution. And that through the adaptation of these new fields of science, they are transhumans en route to becoming post-humans, even to altering our DNA, literally rewriting what God made, so that eventually we will have a post-human species that they see really on the near horizon. And even some of the peer-reviewed journals, and then even some of the more, I guess, sexier forms of media are talking about how within even the next 10 years we will have the first truly transhuman species walking among us. We're already seeing this at the embryonic level. It's already happening with genetically modified crops. It's already getting into the environment. But had I gave that lecture, I wanted to focus not just on transhuman aspirations, but the prophetic implications from my point of view, because it seems to me, and actually in this new book that Dr. Stan referred to, Apollyon Rising 2012, it seemed to me that much of what we're seeing in this science is a repeat of what these old characters call the Watchers did a long time ago in blending humans and animals and DNA and creating a new form of species that became known as the Nephilim, and which brought judgment upon the earth. But we're talking about a technology who at its core originally carried the idea of the incarnating of fallen angels. Now, some may see this all as pure mythology, but I want to tell you a story today about true believers. An occult hierarchy, a title that Dr. Stan has made widely known, that are operating behind the governments of the world, including the government of the United States of America, towards a new world order which will be headed by a personality identified in the Bible which again Catherine was talking about earlier, known as the Antichrist, the true incarnation of a fallen angel. Furthermore, Fire in the Minds of Men is also a title that historian James H. Billington, as Dr. Monteith has quite often referred to, chose for his famous book on the history of revolutions, including the origin of occult Freemasonry and its influence in the American Revolution, which was also very interesting because in his closing statements, Bush himself referred to the Masonic involvement in the American Revolution, saying, when our founders declared a new order of the ages, they were acting on an ancient hope that is meant to be fulfilled. Did any of you remember catching that?
When our founders declared a new order of the ages, they were acting on an ancient hope that is meant to be fulfilled.
When they made this phrase, Novus Ordo Seclorum, they were acting on an ancient hope, an ancient scheme, an ancient plan that evidently hasn't yet been fulfilled at that time, because he said it is still meant to be fulfilled. Well, this phrase, a new order of the ages, is of course taken from the Masonically designed Great Seal of the United States of America, which we'll talk about in a moment. But this was interesting that Bush referred to this as an ancient hope. I guess a hope for some people, maybe a nightmare for others. But to the illumined elite, really, and a handful of historians and scholars, these inaugural addresses by the president were really just important additions in a larger series of carefully crafted speeches in which line-by-line analysis of his public references seemed to be uncovering what appeared to be coded messages that were being sent to somebody.
And an angel still rides in the whirlwind and directs this storm.
Former MI6 intelligence officer, Dr. John Coleman, had written a book called The Committee of 300. I don't know if any of you have ever read that, but in it he claims inside knowledge concerning world manipulation by an occult Illuminati elite. And according to Coleman, the angel in the whirlwind is also known as the Mariah conquering wind. And it's actually a title not only are the highest of the occult order known by, but in particular it is a phrase that is used at important moments in time. They're signaling each other. Now exactly what they were signaling to each other I don't know, but I will tell you, to researchers like David Day, my friend who's the director of Cutting Edge Ministries, the signal was clear. The events surrounding 9/11 was, in his opinion, either designed for or was handily used for, after the fact, a catalyst to set the stage for the final stages in the Masonic Baconian dream of the New Atlantis. The New Atlantis, of course, being what Freemason and Rosicrucian adepts of Bacon believed was the goal of the Americas, that the United States was to become the new Atlantis. Now, among other things, I will say this. At an occult level, at a deeply occult level, if before 9/11 leaders of truly dark powers had determined that the ascendancy for the new Atlantis had finally arrived, then occult magical tradition suggests that they might have triggered an event. And this would be something surrounding a mega ritual offering. I mean, are we talking about the people who died on 9/11? I would sure hope not. Did you know that the capital of the United States is often called the Mirror Vatican? And that's because of the strong similarity between some of its primary buildings and streets. Well, that's no accident. In fact, the founding fathers first called the capital city of the United States Rome. But the parallelism between Washington and the Vatican is no more clearly illustrated anywhere else other than by the Capitol dome facing the obelisk known as the Washington Monument, and in St. Peter's Basilica in the Vatican.